I should have known something was wrong when my wife spent 3 hours getting ready for a Halloween party. Not just any party, her company's annual gala where she'd been angling for a promotion all year. But 3 hours? For Alicia, that was either a declaration of war or seduction. Turns out, it was both. "Greg, zip me up," she called from our bedroom, and when I walked in, my breath caught. She was poured into a black leather Catwoman suit that left absolutely nothing to the imagination. Every curve, every line of her yoga-sculpted body was on full display. "Jesus, Alicia. You planning to give your boss a heart attack?" She laughed, that throaty sound that used to make my knees weak back in college. Now it just made me suspicious. "Don't be silly. It's Halloween. Everyone dresses up." "Right. And I was going as a pirate because apparently that's what happens when your wife picks your costume 5 minutes before leaving the house." The plastic sword felt ridiculous hanging from my belt, but not as ridiculous as I was about to feel. The Riverside Hotel ballroom was packed with Alicia's marketing firm colleagues and their spouses. Orange and black streamers hung from the ceiling, fake spider webs draped the corners, and a DJ was playing monster hits from the 80s. I grabbed 2 drinks from the bar and found Alicia surrounded by her usual crowd of admirers. "There's my swashbuckling husband," she announced as I approached, taking her wine without looking at me. Her attention was focused entirely on the group, specifically on one man I'd never seen before. He was dressed as a gladiator, which basically meant he was shirtless with leather straps across his chest, showing off muscles that clearly didn't come from sitting behind a desk all day. Dark hair, square jaw, the kind of confident smile that said he'd never been turned down for anything in his life. "Greg, this is Dominic Romano," Alicia said, her voice carrying a note I couldn't quite identify. "He's doing some contract work for our factory accounts." Dominic extended a hand that could have crushed mine if he'd wanted to. "Heard a lot about you, Greg." Restaurant business, right? "District manager for Riverside Dining Group," I replied, noting how his eyes never left Alicia even while talking to me. "You? Foreman at Patterson Manufacturing. Been working with your wife's team on their industrial marketing campaign." The way he said "working with" made my pirate sword feel even more plastic. I was about to respond when Susie Martinez appeared at Alicia's elbow. Susie owned a hair salon downtown and had been Alicia's best friend since high school. Tonight she was dressed as a devil, complete with red horns and a pitchfork, which seemed appropriate. "Alicia, honey, you look absolutely sinful," Susie gushed, then noticed me. "Oh, hi, Greg. Love the costume. Very safe." Before I could ask what that was supposed to mean, she was pulling Alicia toward the dance floor, leaving me alone with Dominic. He watched them go with the intensity of a predator tracking prey. "Your wife's quite something," he said, not bothering to hide his appreciation. "Yes, she is." I kept my voice level, but something cold was settling in my stomach. The evening progressed with all the forced cheer of a corporate function. I made small talk with people I barely knew, smiled at jokes that weren't funny, and tried to ignore how often I caught Dominic and Alicia in conversation. They had a way of leaning toward each other that seemed too intimate for casual work colleagues. Around 10 o'clock, I was standing near the bar when I overheard a group of women from Alicia's department talking. They didn't notice me behind them, hidden by a decorative pillar. "Did you see how she's been flirting with that contractor all night?" one of them whispered. "Honey, that's been going on for weeks," another replied, "ever since he started coming to the office. She lights up like Christmas whenever he walks in." Well, can you blame her? Look at that body. If my husband paid half as much attention to me as he does to his sports highlights, maybe I'd be tempted too. They dissolved into giggles, but I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I looked across the room and saw Alicia and Dominic by the windows, standing closer than any married woman should stand to a man who wasn't her husband. As I watched, he said something that made her throw her head back and laugh, her hand touching his arm. That's when Richard Chen appeared beside me. Richard worked in insurance and had been my friend since we'd both moved to the neighborhood 5 years ago. He was dressed as Frankenstein's monster, complete with bolts in his neck. "Rough night?" he asked, following my gaze. "You could say that. Want some advice? Don't make a scene at her company party. Whatever you're thinking, save it for home." I turned to look at him. That obvious? To someone who's been married for 12 years? Yeah. He clapped me on the shoulder. "Come on, let's get another drink. My wife Nikki's around here somewhere, probably hiding from all the drama." We found Nikki by the dessert table, dressed as a witch and looking about as thrilled to be there as I felt. She was a nurse at the local hospital and had the kind of no-nonsense attitude that came from dealing with real problems all day. "Greg, how are you holding up?" she asked, giving me a hug. "That obvious too?" "Honey, everyone's talking about it. Your wife and that contractor have been eye-sleeping with each other all night." "Sorry," she added, glancing at Richard. "But it's true." Richard winced. "Nikki has a gift for brutal honesty." "Someone has to," she replied. "Greg, you want my advice? Go home. Don't give these vultures more gossip material than they already have." But before I could take her advice, Alicia appeared at my elbow. Her cheeks were flushed from dancing, her hair slightly mussed, and she looked more alive than she had in months. "There you are. I've been looking everywhere for you." She slipped her arm through mine, but her eyes were scanning the crowd. "Have you seen Dominic?" "He was just here." "Maybe he went to find his wife," I said pointedly. Alicia's smile faltered for just a second. "Wife?" Susie mentioned he was married. To someone named Maria, I think. "Oh, right. Yes, of course." She recovered quickly, but I caught the flash of something, disappointment, guilt, across her face. That's when Dominic reappeared, carrying 2 drinks. He handed one to Alicia without acknowledging me, which was either incredibly rude or incredibly telling. Probably both. "Thanks," Alicia murmured, her fingers brushing his as she took the glass. I'd had enough. "Alicia, we should go. It's getting late." "Late?" "Greg, it's barely 11. The party's just getting started." She looked at Dominic. "Tell him, Dom. The night is young. Dom." She was calling him Dom now. "Actually," Dominic said, his eyes locked on mine, "I was just thinking the same thing." The night's full of possibilities. The challenge in his voice was unmistakable. So was the message. I felt something snap inside me, some last thread of civility and restraint. "You know what?" I said, loud enough that nearby conversation stopped. "You're absolutely right. The night is full of possibilities." I stepped closer to Dominic, close enough to smell his cologne and the beer on his breath. But some possibilities are off limits. To contractors. To married men. To anyone who doesn't know their place. The ballroom around us had gone quiet. Alicia's face was white beneath her makeup. "Greg," she hissed, "don't you dare." "Don't I dare what?" "Defend my wife's honor. Protect what's mine." I looked directly at Dominic. "Or maybe I should just stand here like a good little husband while you stared at my wife all night." Dominic's jaw tightened. "I think you've had too much to drink, friend. I think you've had too much of my wife's attention, friend." That's when he made his mistake. He put his hand on my chest, not quite a push, but definitely not friendly. "Maybe you should walk away." I looked down at his hand, then back up at his face. "Maybe you should move your hand." For a split second, we were frozen there, 2 men on the edge of violence in a room full of witnesses. Then Alicia was between us, her hands on both our chests. "Stop it. Both of you. This is my workplace, my career on the line." I stepped back, but I didn't break eye contact with Dominic. "You're right. This isn't the place." "Greg," Alicia's voice was sharp with warning. "Don't worry," I told her, straightening my pirate coat. "I won't embarrass you at your precious party." I turned to walk away, but Dominic's voice stopped me. That's right. Walk away. We all know who the real man is here. I turned back slowly. The entire ballroom was watching now, a circle of costumed faces waiting to see what would happen next. Alicia looked mortified. Susie was grinning like this was the best entertainment she'd had all year. Richard and Nikki looked ready to intervene, but all I could see was Dominic's smug face, so confident that he'd won something. You want to know who the real man is? I asked quietly. Before he could answer, I stepped forward and slapped him. Not a punch. I wasn't trying to start a brawl at my wife's company party. Just a sharp, stinging slap that echoed through the silent ballroom and sent his drink splashing across his gladiator costume. Dominic staggered backward, more from surprise than force, his hand going to his cheek. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then I leaned close enough that only he could hear me. The real man is the one who's going home with her tonight. And every night after that. Don't forget it. I turned to Alicia, who was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. Ready to go home, honey? The drive home was 20 minutes of Arctic silence. Alicia stared out the passenger window while I gripped the steering wheel and tried to process what had just happened. I'd never hit anyone in my life, not since high school anyway. The fact that it felt so satisfying was probably something I should examine, but not tonight. We pulled into our driveway at 11:45. The house was dark, except for the porch light we'd left on. Our babysitter's car was gone, which meant she'd put the kids to bed and left as scheduled. 8-year-old Emma and 6-year-old Jake would be asleep, blissfully unaware that their parents' marriage had just imploded at a Halloween party. Alicia was out of the car before I'd even turned off the engine. By the time I got inside, she was in the living room, pacing back and forth in her Catwoman suit like a caged animal. What the hell was that? She exploded the moment I walked in. That was me defending my marriage. That was you humiliating me in front of my entire company. Do you have any idea what you've done? What this could cost me? I loosened the pirate bandana around my neck and tossed it on the coffee table. What it could cost you? What about what this whole thing is costing me? What are you talking about? I'm talking about you flirting with that muscle-bound idiot all night. I'm talking about you calling him Dom like your old friends. I'm talking about the way you looked at him like I wasn't even in the room. Alicia stopped pacing. You're being ridiculous. Am I? Because half your office seems to think there's something going on between you two. Her face flushed. Office gossip. You know how these people are. No, Alicia, I know how you are. Or at least I thought I did. I sat down heavily on the couch. When did we become strangers? For a moment, her expression softened. She sat on the edge of the coffee table facing me, her leather-clad knees almost touching mine. We're not strangers, Greg. We've been going through a rough patch. A rough patch? Is that what we're calling it? You have to admit, things haven't been great between us lately. You're always working, always tired. When's the last time we went out together, just the two of us? When's the last time you really looked at me? Really looked at me the way you used to? I stared at her. So this is my fault? I'm not saying it's anyone's fault. I'm saying we both need to try harder. And Dominic? Where does he fit into this trying harder? She was quiet for a long moment. Dom is just a friend, someone I can talk to. Dom. I shook my head. Jesus, Alicia. Do you hear yourself? You're making this into something it's not. Then tell me what it is. Tell me why my wife spent 3 hours getting dressed to impress a contractor. Tell me why she's defending him instead of her husband. Alicia stood up abruptly. I'm not doing this tonight. I'm tired, I'm upset, and you're not being rational. She headed for the stairs, then paused at the bottom step. And Greg? Don't ever embarrass me like that again. Whatever problems we have, we solve them at home, not in public. I watched her climb the stairs, her heels clicking on the hardwood. A minute later, I heard our bedroom door close. Not slam. Alicia was too controlled for that, but close with the kind of finality that said I wouldn't be welcome. I spent the night on the couch, staring at the ceiling and replaying every moment of the evening. By morning, I'd convinced myself that maybe I'd overreacted. Maybe Alicia was right, and I was reading too much into innocent workplace friendship. That delusion lasted exactly until I checked my phone. There were 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Most were from Richard and Nikki, but several were from numbers I didn't recognize. I scrolled through them with growing dread. Richard. Dude, call me. The video is everywhere. Nikki. Greg, honey, are you okay? People are posting about last night. Unknown number. Saw the party footage. Your wife is hot. Sorry about your situation, bro. Video? What video? I opened Facebook and immediately saw what they were talking about. Someone at the party had filmed the confrontation and posted it to the Riverside community group. The video was grainy and the audio was muffled, but you could clearly see me slapping Dominic and hear my final comment about going home with my wife. The post had been shared 47 times and had over 200 comments. I scrolled through them, my stomach sinking with each one. Drama at the Riverside Hotel. Husband catches wife cheating at company party. That contractor had it coming. Good for the husband. Poor guy. Everyone could see what was happening, except him. Alicia Martinez is a total MILF, though. Can't blame the contractor. Wait. Martinez? I scrolled back up to see who had posted the video. Susie Martinez. Alicia's best friend had filmed the whole thing and posted it online with the caption, "When keeping it real goes wrong. Halloween drama at the Riverside Hotel." I was still staring at my phone when Alicia came downstairs. She was dressed for work in a navy suit, her hair pulled back in a professional bun, every trace of last night's Catwoman erased. She looked like she hadn't slept either. "Good morning," she said coolly, heading straight for the coffee maker. "Did you know Susie posted a video of last night online?" Her hand froze on the coffee pot. "What?" I held up my phone. 17 shares in the last hour. The whole neighborhood is talking about it. Alicia grabbed the phone and watched the video, her face growing paler with each second. When it ended, she sank into a kitchen chair. Oh God, this is a disaster. Yeah, it is. But maybe now you'll understand why I was so upset. She looked up at me sharply. This doesn't prove anything except that you lost control and made us both look like fools. Us? I'm not the one who was flirting with a married man all night. And I'm not the one who resorted to violence. Before I could respond, my phone rang. The caller ID showed my boss's number. "Greg, it's Dave. We need to talk. Can you come in early today?" David Morrison had been my boss for 3 years and had never called me at home before. This couldn't be good. "Sure, Dave. What's going on?" "Just come in. We'll discuss it when you get here." The line went dead. Alicia was watching me with something that might have been concern. Work? Yeah. Apparently my 15 minutes of fame have reached the restaurant group. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door, then turned back. "Alicia, that video doesn't lie. Whatever you think happened last night, everyone else saw the same thing I did. Maybe it's time you asked yourself why." The Riverside Dining Group offices were in a converted warehouse downtown, all exposed brick and industrial lighting that was supposed to look trendy, but mostly just looked cold. Dave's office was on the second floor, overlooking the parking lot, where I could see several of my colleagues' cars already there despite the early hour. Dave was waiting for me with a cup of coffee and a grim expression. He was in his 50s, a career restaurant guy who'd worked his way up from waiting tables to running a dozen locations. He'd always been fair with me, which made this conversation even more uncomfortable. "Sit down, Greg." I sat. "So, interesting weekend." "Dave, I can explain." He held up a hand. "Before you say anything, I want you to know that what you do on your own time is your business. But when it ends up on social media and reflects on this company, it becomes my business. He turned his computer monitor toward me. The Facebook video was playing, the sound turned down but the visuals clear enough. 3 of our investors saw this. 2 of our major clients called this morning asking if this was the kind of people we employ. The Riverside Hotel is one of our biggest accounts, Greg. The manager there is not happy about having his venue associated with what he's calling domestic violence. It wasn't domestic violence, it was barely even a slap. It was assault, Greg. On video, in public, at a business function. The weight of what he was saying settled over me. Dave, please. I've been with this company for 5 years. I've never had a single complaint, never missed a deadline, never. I know, which is why I'm not firing you. I exhaled in relief. Yet, the relief evaporated. You're suspended without pay for 2 weeks while we conduct an internal review. Keep your phone on, don't talk to any reporters, and for God's sake, stay off social media. If this blows over and the clients calm down, we'll discuss your return. If not. He didn't need to finish the sentence. I drove home in a daze, my mind reeling, suspended, possibly fired. All because I'd defended my marriage against a man who was clearly trying to steal my wife. The house was empty when I got back. Alicia had left for work, and the kids were at school. I sat at the kitchen table and tried to figure out what to do next. That's when I decided to do something I'd never done before. I drove to Alicia's office. The offices of Martinez Marketing were in a glass building in the business district, all chrome and marble that screamed success. I'd been there exactly twice in the 5 years Alicia had worked there, both times for company Christmas parties. The receptionist recognized me and smiled brightly. Mr. Morrison, here to see Alicia? She's in a meeting, but I can... Actually, I was hoping to speak with Dominic Romano. I believe he's doing some contract work here? Her smile faltered slightly. Oh, let me check if he's available. She made a quick phone call, speaking in hushed tones. A few minutes later, Dominic emerged from the elevator. He was dressed in work clothes, jeans, steel-toed boots, and a company polo shirt that stretched tight across his chest. His left cheek bore a faint red mark where I'd slapped him. Well, well, the jealous husband. What brings you to my workplace? Your workplace? I thought this was my wife's workplace. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I work wherever I'm needed. And I'm needed here a lot lately. I'll bet you are. Can we talk? Privately? Dominic glanced around the lobby, where several people were pretending not to watch us. Sure. There's a coffee shop next door. We walked to the coffee shop in silence. Dominic ordered a protein smoothie. I got black coffee. We sat at a corner table away from the other customers. So, Dominic said, leaning back in his chair, come to apologize? Actually, I came to ask you to back off. He laughed. Back off from what? From my wife, from my family, from whatever game you think you're playing. Game? Man, you've got this all wrong. Alicia and I work together. That's it. Bullshit. I saw how you looked at her last night. I heard how she talked to you. This isn't about work. Dominic was quiet for a moment, studying me over his smoothie. When he spoke again, his voice was softer, but somehow more menacing. You want to know the truth, Greg? Your wife is lonely. She's married to a man who takes her for granted, who's too busy with his little restaurant job to notice what an incredible woman he has at home. She deserves better. And you think you're better? I think I'm available. I think I pay attention. I think I make her feel like a woman instead of just a mother and a paycheck. The casual way he said it, like he was discussing the weather, made it worse somehow. She's married, Dominic. To me. With kids. Marriage is just a piece of paper, Greg. And kids, well, kids adjust. I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. Stay away from my family. Dominic remained seated, completely calm. Or what? You'll slap me again? Post another video for the neighborhood to see? Just stay away. I turned to leave, but his voice followed me. Ask yourself something, Greg. If your marriage was so solid, would I even be a threat? I was halfway to my car when I realized he was right, and that scared me more than anything else he could have said. The next 2 weeks were the longest of my life. Suspended from work, I spent my days rattling around the house like a ghost while Alicia went to her job and the kids went to school. I tried to use the time to reconnect with my family, to prove that I could be the attentive husband Dominic claimed I wasn't. But Alicia was pulling away from me more each day. She came home late, claiming urgent projects and client deadlines. She took phone calls in the other room, speaking in hushed tones that stopped the moment I entered. She slept on her side of the bed with her back to me, and when I tried to touch her, she claimed to be tired. Meanwhile, the neighborhood gossip mill was working overtime. The video of our confrontation had been shared hundreds of times across various social media platforms. I couldn't go to the grocery store or pick up the kids from school without feeling people's eyes on me, hearing whispered conversations that stopped when I got too close. Richard and Nikki tried to be supportive, inviting me over for dinner and listening to me vent my frustrations, but even they seemed uncomfortable with the situation, like they knew something I didn't. Everything came to a head on a Friday evening. I was in the garage, trying to distract myself by organizing tools, when I heard Alicia's car pull into the driveway. She was 2 hours late, and when she came inside, she was glowing in a way I hadn't seen in months. "Sorry I'm late," she called out, not sounding sorry at all. "We had a breakthrough on the Patterson manufacturing campaign. Dom thinks we might be able to expand into their other facilities. Dom, always Dom." I followed her into the kitchen, where she was pulling ingredients from the refrigerator with unusual energy. "You seem happy," I observed. "I am happy. This could be huge for my career, Greg. The biggest account I've ever landed." "And Dominic? How does he feel about it?" She paused, a container of leftover pasta in her hands. "What do you mean?" "I mean, is he happy too? About the expansion?" "Of course he is. Why wouldn't he be?" I leaned against the counter, studying her face. "Where were you tonight, Alicia?" "I told you. At the office, working on the campaign. Until 8 o'clock? On a Friday?" Her jaw tightened. "Yes, Greg. Some of us still have jobs that require dedication." The barb hit home as she'd intended. "That's not what I meant, and you know it." "Then what did you mean?" Before I could answer, her phone buzzed with a text message. She glanced at it and smiled, actually smiled, before quickly typing a response. Who was that? Work. At 8:15 on a Friday night? She slammed the pasta container on the counter. "God, Greg, what is wrong with you?" "You're like a paranoid stalker. I can't even check my phone without you interrogating me." "I'm not paranoid. I'm concerned about my marriage." "Your marriage? What about our marriage? What about the fact that you humiliated me in front of my colleagues and got yourself suspended from work? What about the fact that our neighbors cross the street to avoid talking to us because they think you're some kind of violent psycho? I defended us. You defended your ego." There was nothing to defend, Greg. Nothing was happening. Her phone buzzed again. This time she didn't even try to hide her smile as she read the message. That's when something inside me snapped. I grabbed the phone from her hands before she could react. The message was from a contact labeled Simply D. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow." Tonight was incredible. The previous message, sent just moments before, was her response to an earlier text. "Me too." I haven't felt this alive in years. I scrolled up through their conversation, my heart pounding as I read message after message of increasingly intimate exchanges. "Miss you already. Thinking about what you said earlier. Greg's working late again. Free for lunch? You make me feel like myself again." I looked up at Alicia, who had gone completely white. "Nothing was happening?" I said quietly. She reached for the phone, but I held it away from her. "Greg, give me my phone. How long?" Give me my phone right now. How long, Alicia? She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw the exact second she decided to stop pretending. 2 months, she said defiantly. And before you ask, yes, it's everything you think it is. The words hit me like a physical blow. 2 months. While I'd been working 60-hour weeks to support our family, while I'd been coaching Jake's Little League team and helping Emma with her homework, while I'd been living my life like nothing had changed, my wife had been having an affair. Why? I asked. Because you stopped seeing me, Greg. You stopped wanting me. When's the last time you told me I was beautiful? When's the last time you couldn't wait to get home to me? When's the last time you made me feel like I was more than just the person who does your laundry and raises your kids? So you decided to sleep with someone else. She flinched at the crude language, but didn't deny it. I decided to feel alive again. Dom makes me feel like a woman, not just a wife and mother. Dom is married, Alicia. He has a wife. Not for long. He's leaving Maria. We're going to be together. I stared at her, this woman I'd been married to for 10 years, and realized I didn't know her at all. What about Emma and Jake? They'll adjust. Kids are resilient. The casual way she dismissed our children's feelings, the exact same phrase Dominic had used, made me realize this conversation had happened before. They'd planned this. They'd discussed breaking up 2 families like they were discussing what to have for dinner. And me? You'll be fine, Greg. You'll find someone who appreciates your stability. The way she said stability made it sound like a disease. I set her phone on the counter and walked toward the door. Where are you going? Out. Greg, we need to talk about this. We need to figure out how to handle the kids, the house, everything. I turned back to her. No, we don't. You've already figured it out. You and Dom have it all planned. Don't be like this. Like what? Hurt? Angry? Betrayed? How exactly should I be, Alicia? She didn't have an answer for that. I drove aimlessly for an hour, my mind reeling. 10 years of marriage, 2 children, a life we'd built together, and she was throwing it all away for a factory foreman who made her feel alive. Eventually, I found myself at Richard and Nikki's house. They took one look at my face and knew. She admitted it? Nikki asked, pouring me a whiskey without being asked. I nodded, not trusting my voice. I'm sorry, man, Richard said. We suspected, but we hoped we were wrong. You knew? We suspected, Nikki corrected. Alicia's been different lately. Happier, but in a secretive way, and the way she talked about that contractor. 2 months, I said. It's been going on for 2 months. They exchanged a look. What? I asked. Greg, Nikki said gently. We think it might be longer than that. My blood went cold. What do you mean? Remember the 4th of July barbecue at the Hendersons? Alicia disappeared for like an hour, said she was helping in the kitchen, but I went looking for her and she wasn't there. And last month, Richard added, when she said she was going to that marketing conference in Chicago? I saw her at the mall that same day with some guy. I didn't get a good look at him, but the room was spinning. How long had this been going on? How long had I been the clueless husband while everyone else knew my wife was cheating? There's something else, Nikki said reluctantly. Something you should know before you make any decisions. What? Susie's been talking. She's been telling anyone who'll listen that Alicia's planning to file for divorce and go for full custody of the kids. She's been documenting everything. Your work suspension, the incident at the party, anything that makes you look unstable. The betrayal was complete. Not only was my wife cheating, she was building a case against me to take away my children. I finished my whiskey and stood up. Where are you going? Richard asked. Home. I need to think. Greg, Nikki caught my arm. Whatever you're thinking, be smart about it. Don't give her more ammunition. I nodded, but my mind was already working. Alicia thought she had all the power, that she could destroy our family and walk away with everything. She thought I was just the stable, boring husband who would quietly accept whatever scraps she threw my way. She was about to learn how wrong she was. The next morning was Saturday. Alicia left early, claiming she had to work, but obviously going to meet Dominic. The kids were at sleepovers, so I had the house to myself. I spent the morning going through Alicia's things with the methodical precision of a detective. Her laptop was password protected, but I knew her well enough to guess it on the third try. Emma and Jake, 2014, the year our daughter was born. What I found made my stomach turn. Emails, photos, detailed plans for their future together. Alicia and Dominic had been planning this for months, not weeks. They'd discussed which lawyer she should use, how to maximize her settlement, how to present me as an unfit father. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd documented everything electronically. I copied everything to a flash drive, then started making phone calls. The first was to Tom Bradley, the best divorce attorney in the city. The second was to a private investigator Richard had recommended. The third was to my boss at the restaurant group. "Dave, it's Greg. I know I'm suspended, but I need to ask you something. That incident at the Riverside Hotel, do you have security footage from that night?" "Probably." "Why?" "I need to see it. All of it. Not just the confrontation, but everything leading up to it." There was a pause. "Greg, what's going on?" "I'm fighting for my life, Dave, and I think that footage might prove I was right to defend myself." By Sunday evening, I had everything I needed. Security footage showing Alicia and Dominic's intimate behavior throughout the party. Phone records proving their affair had been going on for months. Financial records showing Alicia had been hiding money in a separate account. Even a recording of a conversation between Alicia and Susie, discussing their plan to destroy my reputation and take custody of the kids. But I wasn't ready to play my hand yet. First, I wanted them to feel what I'd been feeling. The slow, agonizing realization that everything you thought you knew was a lie. Monday morning, I called in sick to my suspension, a joke that amused me more than it should have, and drove to Patterson Manufacturing. I waited in the parking lot until I saw Dominic arrive for work. Then I followed him inside. The receptionist tried to stop me, but I walked past her like I belonged there. I found Dominic in the break room, surrounded by his co-workers, regaling them with some story that had them all laughing. "Dominic," I called out, "we need to talk." The laughter stopped. Every face in the room turned toward me. Dominic's expression shifted from surprise to annoyance. "What are you doing here, Greg?" "I came to give you something." I pulled out a manila envelope and set it on the table in front of him. "Consider it a gift." He opened it cautiously. Inside were printed copies of his text messages with my wife, including several photos they'd exchanged that left nothing to the imagination. Dominic's face went red as he quickly closed the envelope, but not before several of his co-workers had seen enough to understand what they were looking at. "You son of a bitch," he hissed. "No, Dom. You're the son of a bitch. I'm just the messenger." I turned to address the room. In case anyone's wondering, these are text messages between Dominic and my wife. They've been having an affair for months while he's been married to someone else. Just thought his co-workers should know what kind of man they're working with. The room erupted in whispers and uncomfortable laughter. Dominic stood up, his fists clenched. "You can't prove anything." "Actually, I can. Phone records, hotel receipts, security footage. I've got it all, Dom. The question is, does your wife Maria know? Because she's about to." I walked out of the break room, leaving Dominic to face his co-workers' questions and judgment. But I wasn't done yet. My next stop was Susie's hair salon. It was busy for a Monday morning, full of women getting their weekly wash and style. Perfect. I walked in like I had an appointment. Susie looked up from the client she was working on, her face registering shock and then fear. "Greg? What are you doing here?" "I came to thank you, Susie, for posting that video, for spreading gossip about my marriage, for helping my wife plan to destroy me. The salon went quiet. Every woman there was suddenly very interested in our conversation. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. You've been Alicia's accomplice from the beginning, covering for her, lying for her, helping her build a case against me. The loyal best friend, right? I pulled out my phone and opened the recording app. Want to hear something interesting? It's a conversation between you and my wife, discussing how to make me look like an unfit father. Susie's face went white. You can't record people without their permission. Actually, in this state, I can. One-party consent law. And since the conversation took place in my house, I was legally entitled to record it. I pressed play. Alicia's voice filled the salon, clear and unmistakable. We need to make Greg look unstable. Document everything, the suspension, the party incident, any time he loses his temper. The judge needs to see that he's not fit to have custody. Susie's voice responded, What about the affair? Won't that hurt you in court? Not if we can prove Greg was abusive. A woman fleeing an abusive marriage gets sympathy. A woman having an affair gets judged. I stopped the recording. The salon was dead silent. So there you have it, ladies. My wife and her best friend, plotting to destroy my life and take away my children. Just thought you should know the kind of person doing your hair. I walked out, leaving Susie to face a room full of shocked clients. Within an hour, the story would be all over town. But I still wasn't done. That evening, I waited until Alicia came home. She walked into the kitchen where I was sitting at the table with a cup of coffee and a stack of papers. We need to talk, she said. Yes, we do. She sat down across from me, her face set in determined lines. I know you're angry, and I understand that. But we need to handle this like adults, for the kids' sake. You're absolutely right. We should handle this like adults. I slid the stack of papers across the table. She looked down at them, her expression changing as she realized what she was seeing. Where did you get these? Does it matter? The question is, what are we going to do about them? She flipped through the pages. Phone records, hotel receipts, bank statements, printed emails, screenshots of text messages. You've been spying on me. I've been protecting myself. And our children. Greg, I know this looks bad, but it looks bad because it is bad, Alicia. You've been planning to destroy me for months. The affair, the hidden money, the custody strategy. I know all of it. She was quiet for a long moment, studying the papers. When she looked up, her expression had changed. The defiant woman from Friday night was gone, replaced by someone who looked scared and cornered. What do you want? I want the truth. All of it. How long has this really been going on? She sighed. 6 months. It started at the company picnic in May. 6 months. Half a year of lies and betrayal. And you've been planning to leave me the whole time? Not at first. At first it was just an escape. A way to feel wanted again. But then Dom started talking about us being together, and it seemed possible. What about the kids? I thought they'd be better off with me. You're gone so much for work, and after the suspension? After the suspension that happened, because I was defending our marriage. She nodded miserably. Here's what's going to happen, I said, leaning forward. You're going to end things with Dominic. Today, you're going to quit your job and find work somewhere else, somewhere he can't follow you. You're going to close that secret bank account and put the money back into our joint account. And you're going to go to marriage counseling with me. And if I don't, I tapped the stack of papers. Then I file for divorce tomorrow and use all of this to get full custody of Emma and Jake. I'll make sure every person in this town knows exactly what kind of woman you are. Your career will be over, your reputation will be destroyed, and you'll be lucky to get supervised visitation with your own children. She stared at me, and I could see her mind working, calculating her options. You bastard. No, Alicia. I'm a father protecting his children and a husband who's finally done being a fool." She was quiet for a long time, staring at the papers spread across our kitchen table. Finally, she looked up at me. "You've changed." "Yes, I have." "The question is, are you willing to change too?" The next morning, Alicia called in sick to work. Instead, she drove to Patterson Manufacturing and ended things with Dominic in the parking lot. I know because I followed her and watched the whole thing from my car. It wasn't pretty. Dominic was angry, then pleading, then angry again. At one point, he grabbed her arm and I almost got out of the car, but she pulled away and kept walking. He shouted something after her that I couldn't hear, but I could see her shoulders shaking as she got in her car and drove away. That afternoon, she gave her 2 weeks' notice at Martinez Marketing. By the end of the week, she'd found a new job with a smaller firm across town. The pay was less, but it was a fresh start. Dominic, meanwhile, was having problems of his own. His wife Maria had received copies of all his text messages with Alicia, along with hotel receipts and photos. She'd thrown him out of their house and filed for divorce. His co-workers at the factory were giving him hell, and his supervisor had written him up for unprofessional conduct after word of the affair spread through the company. Susie's salon had lost half its clients after the recording incident. Several women had canceled their appointments, saying they didn't feel comfortable supporting someone who would betray a friend's husband. She'd called Alicia crying, begging her to make me take it back, but there was nothing to take back. The truth was the truth. As for me, I was reinstated at work with a formal reprimand and a warning about future conduct. Dave made it clear that I was on thin ice, but the security footage from the party had shown that Dominic had initiated physical contact first, which helped my case. More importantly, several clients had actually praised the company for employing someone who stood up for his family values. It took 3 months of marriage counseling before Alicia and I could have a conversation without one of us storming out of the room. It took 6 months before we could be in the same bed without a wall of pillows between us. It took a full year before I could trust her to go to the grocery store without wondering who she might meet there. But we made it work. Not because what we had before was so great, but because what we built afterward was stronger. Alicia learned to appreciate what she'd almost lost, and I learned that sometimes you have to fight for what matters most. Emma and Jake never knew how close their family came to falling apart. They just knew that Mom and Dad went through a rough patch but worked things out, the way married people do. As for Dominic, I heard through the neighborhood grapevine that he'd moved to another state after his divorce was finalized. Apparently, his reputation in town had become so toxic that he couldn't find steady work anywhere. Last I heard, he was working construction in Arizona, living in a trailer park and paying most of his wages in alimony and child support. Susie eventually sold her salon and moved away too. The recording had destroyed her business and her reputation, and she couldn't handle the constant whispers and pointed fingers. She'd tried to rebuild her friendship with Alicia, but some betrayals are too deep to forgive. The whole experience taught me something important. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting everything. I got my wife back, I kept my family together, and I destroyed the people who tried to destroy me, all without breaking a single law or throwing a single punch. Well, except for that one slap at the Halloween party. But that was just the beginning.